So I've got quite a few highlights to go through today. So thank you, everyone. Okay, so the first title I wanted to tell you about is Femme Feral by Sam Bessinger. This book is our lead fiction title for April. It is essentially an incredible menopause novel. It's about a 46-year-old who has loads and loads going on at a time where her menopause symptoms start showing, but feminine rage and night sweats are maybe not the only symptoms that are coming about. She's also seeing fur and teeth and weird things happening with the moon. So Ellie's a hugely competent executive at this mental health app startup, and she's fiercely good at her job. And like many successful women, she is overlooked for a promotion as CEO. And instead, it's in favor of an absolute worst tech bro you could possibly imagine. And her rage starts manifesting into something a little bit more feral. So this is a bit like Night Bitch, but for a slightly older audience. And it taps into that femgore trend that I think we're seeing out a lot, perfect for fans of movies like Promising Young Woman and books like Butter. But the thing about Sam is she's also just been announced from the Observer in the UK as one of the 6 debut novelists to look out for in 2026. So that's very exciting. I think also if you've got people who are fans of Miranda July's All Fours, this is a little less quirky than Miranda July because no one can be Miranda July except for Miranda July. But this might be a good place to send people after reading that because it might not be quite as quirky, but it's as funny. It's quite a hilarious read. So that's a good one to lead us off in April. Another one that I think that is perfect for the indies is The Daffodil Days. So this focuses on a year in the marriage of Sylvia Plath and Ted Hughes. But the only thing about it is that it's not seen through their eyes. It's seen through the eyes of all the different people around them, I guess in their village, you could say. So the book opens with their house through the perspective of their house cleaner, Nancy. And then it moves on to the dressmaker and the chemist and all these kind of other people who are seeing their marriage from the outside. So I think it's really interesting. It's really well researched, but it's also one of those books where is fascinating because as a reader, you sort of know where this story goes, right? But that doesn't necessarily, it's not necessarily that plays out on the page. It's more watching the intricacies of this relationship unfold through the eyes of all the people around them. So this is beautifully written, and I think it's a great one for fans of those incredible poets, and aren't we all? So moving on to May, we have The Wonderful Castaway by Francesca de Torres. She's the author of Saltblood, which I'm sure a lot of you will remember. This is historical fiction, but it's inspired by real-life historical events. It's set in 1704 on an island in the South Pacific Ocean when Alexander Selkirk is abandoned by his crew and left to fend for themselves. He's a character who's super disagreeable, so he's actually only got himself to blame, the fact that he's been outcast from this expedition. So what begins as a gripping tale of endurance on his part, because he's sort of left alone, it transforms into this really great meditation on guilt and redemption and the fragile boundaries between man and beast, sanity and madness. He starts to go a little insane, but it is also very funny. So Francesca lives in Melbourne. She's really keen to go out and visit a bunch of stores. So if you are a Melbourne store, please get in touch with me if you're interested in her coming and popping in. But we've got quite a big campaign around this one. We're going to have proofs. So and in-house at Bloomsbury, this is one that a lot of the staff are really loving. So should be a good one for everyone. This is the first book I read when I got to Bloomsbury a month ago. This is getting loads of buzz, this book. It's by Josh has YA books, some of which you might remember, called Happy Head, Dead Happy and Traumaland. But this is definitely him having his foray into adult fiction. We have Mallory, who's a writer suffering from writer's block, but she reads online that the trend is to go gay, go sad, and go dark. So she joins Grindr, the first of her very questionable acts in this book. And she makes up a fake profile, and there she meets Leo, who is a young addict, and essentially starts mining him for his story. But the interesting thing about Leo is he that easy to take advantage of? So it has shades of Yellow Face in that it makes you a bit uncomfortable about the publishing industry. Mallory's like liaising with her publisher editor who, they're just saying some things that make us all feel very uncomfortable. This book's not for the faint of heart. It actually goes to some pretty dark themes, especially around Leo's addiction, but it is an absolute page turner. It's one that as soon as you get going, you just sort of start to rip through the pages of Fruit Fly. And I have to say, it's got quite a creepy ending that will keep you sort of chatting. You'll be just dying to speak to anyone who's read it so that you can talk through this one. So Fruit Fly, I think, is actually going to be one of those little sort of hits that we see coming from the side. He's also touring in May, so he'll be in the country doing some publicity. Moving on to June, and probably the one you've all been waiting for. I just finished this yesterday in manuscript form. Proofs are literally imminent. We're hoping to get those within the next week or so. We all are obsessively in love with Anne Patchett, and I'm pleased to tell you that Whistler is amazing. I finished it yesterday. I was like 5 stars from me. Anne Patchett is obviously one of the most beloved writers. Booksellers and readers just really love her for her emotionally rich and deeply human stories. I think anyone who's fans of Dutch House, especially Tom Lake, will come back for this book for sure. It'll also gain some new fans, I think. It's very accessible. I absolutely devoured this book. So it begins with an English lit teacher in her 50s, Daphne, who's seemingly being followed through the Met Museum in New York City. And she discovers that the gentleman that's sort of following her around is her previous stepfather, Eddie, who she hasn't seen in over 40 years when him and her mother got divorced. But the divorce happened directly after a traumatic accident in which Daphne and Eddie's lives were changed together. So through this reconnection with Eddie, she realizes that there's a version of the past that she's always held on to that wasn't necessarily exactly how things played out. This is character-led storytelling, as we know that Anne Patchett does best. I love it. I actually think that the character of Eddie is potentially one of the best characters she's ever written. I absolutely loved her. I just wanted to spend so much time on the page with him. So this one's perfect for readers of The Dutch House, Olive Kitteridge, Maggie O'Farrell novels, which is very convenient given that it's going to be on sale on the same day as Maggie O'Farrell's Land. So I'm sure you'll all agree that a lot of people who are coming in for either or book will be able to convince them to take both because, they're both sort of a similar crossover artist. Speaking of artists, on the front cover there, Anne commissioned the same artist that illustrated the cover of The Dutch House. And proofs are imminent. We're going to have the whole thing here. We've got pause, such as posters to help with window displays, and there's going to be as big a campaign as we can do. It's going to be outdoor advertising campaign, bus and train, shopping centre ads, loads of publicity, all of that. So very exciting one. I can't wait for you guys to read it. Feel free to drop me an email and tell me what you think. But I feel very confident that you're really gonna love this, and it's gonna sit so beautifully within her collection of books. So there's just some of the sort of targeting we're doing on the campaign. Next up, we've got a bit of a different one, but one that is everyone's getting very excited about. This is a bit of a genre crossover novel. It's about Guinevere and Ellis Sharp, who had an enviable childhood. So their idyllic days were spent in the woods of Vermont and was immortalised by their mother, who was a writer. Her name was Edith Sharp, and she had a best-selling YA series called The Ninth City. So they became this really famous family. So the Gwen, the daughter, goes to tell the story behind the stories. And is it the true story behind what happened with this family, or is it the story that she likes to tell herself? So it's a lot of sort of family drama, but then it also flips over into speculative fiction as well. There's a fantasy element to this book. So it's sort of being comped to V.E. Schwab and also Lev Grossman's The Magician series. It's a debut adult fiction book, but it is one that is quite exciting and we think that you guys are going to love. So moving on to July. Nothing to my name. It's a gorgeous jacket there, I'm sure you can see. It's essentially what we like to refer to as a Chinese pachinko. It's 400 pages, so maybe not quite as long as Pachinko, but it is a beautiful historical novel, which is essentially bookended by the Tiananmen Square disaster and the Cultural Revolution. It's a multi-generational story which focuses on women whose lives are heavily impacted by the cultural and political forces at play in their society. This is a real big-hearted novel, and it's one that we think it will be really easy for you guys to hand sell in store, especially with that nice little tagline of Chinese pachinko. I feel like I want to run out and grab that already. So yeah, that's a good one coming as well. Now, this particular book almost needs not too much chat about it, given that it is the highly anticipated follow-up to As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow. This one has actually, we've just found out that it's moved. Yeah, so it's actually going to publish in June. It was originally going to be July, even a week ago when this presentation was put together. But this is going to be an incredible follow-up. We're going to have one of the biggest kids campaigns of the year around this one. There's going to be pause, there's going to be proofs. The author with As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow was nominated for a bunch of awards. This was also a real bookseller favorite, so I think this will be one that that some of your kids fans will be waiting for. Moving on to August, I'm going very fast. I hope I'm doing okay for time. This one is one from One World that they're really quite excited about. It's a book that it's maybe for fans of Green Dot or maybe Dolly Alderton's books. It's got that great jacket. It's a book that explores agoraphobia, which is, of course, the fear of going outside, hence the title. And the author, Charlotte Levin, has experience in his herself, actually. So it should be quite a publicity-led campaign for this book as well. So Beatrice is a woman living in her house with a parakeet named Métis. She's drinking a bit too much. She's trying to stay very chill when her postman announces it's his last day on the job. She gets highly alarmed because he's literally one of the only people in her life. So it goes back in time to her early career as an actress and when her glamorous French mother dies and her life starts to spiral. So it kind of jumps back and forth in time. It's quirky, it's funny, it has a great jacket. The main character is a little bit like Alexa from Schitt's Creek for anyone who watches that show. And it's also got a Marion Keyes endorsement coming with this one too. So I probably don't need to remind you guys about what Slumdog Millionaire did. So this is actually the book by the same author, The Girl with the Seven Lives, as Slumdog Millionaire. And I think it's really going to please a lot of the fans of that story. It's about a girl on the slums of Delhi who's being held captive. Her life is up for sale in an online auction. So she gives her the secrets of her 7 extraordinary lives over a one-night period in hoping to save her own life. So I'm sure a lot of people there are realizing that it's got obvious shades of 1001 Nights, trying to tell a story to get you out of trouble. It also kind of reminded me a bit of Tom Robbins. I don't know if you guys remember that Dance of the Seven Veils, but it also fits into that trend of the books with seven in the title: 7 husbands, 7 skins, 7 moons, etc., etc. But it does have that definite shades of Slumdog Millionaire, in that it's someone from the slums whose fate is being suddenly broadcast. We all remember that story. So yeah, that's an exciting fiction one coming up for us in August. Also in August, and also One World, who I mentioned just before, this is essentially their biggest acquisition ever. This was a really big auction on this book. It's Iranian American. They also think it's going to be quite a big prize winner as well. So this will be one that's really perfect for the indies. Iranian American Hetty is mourning the recent death of her mother when she is given a series of photographs with her mother in it, dressed as a fundamentalist with a machine gun slung over her shoulder. There's photos of her pointing gun at other women. And basically her understanding of her mother and what her mother's life was is completely blown apart. So she goes around LA having conversations with other women, while she's grieving, and we get a real kind of sense of the women's lives around her as she goes about this. So despite the heavy topic, though, it's also funny and relatable. I have started dipping into this, and the writing is really, really strong. It's for fans of Good Girls, The Persians, Fundamentally. I'm not sure if you guys read that. Fantastic. Similarly, in that it can be a potentially dark topic, but it's also got that lightness and humour. And Martyr by Kaveh Akbar. It sits in that kind of space too, which was one of my favourite books of the last few years. So quite excited about this. That's not the finished cover. And then finally, a couple of September highlights here for you. That's finishing. Everything to the Sea by Alicia Lupano. This is basically another example of hugely big-hearted storytelling. We feel like it sits in that space where it's literary, but it also could potentially be a Reese Witherspoon pick. It's a novel about 2 young lovers who get separated and they try to find their way back to each other. It's set in Hawaii in a beautiful and remote town called Hilo. We have Jane, who's an artsy loner who dreams of escaping the town, and Kenji is the guy she falls in love with, who's a jock, but he's a very thoughtful jock, but he has more deep connections to the town. And just as she convinces him that he might kind of run away to Honolulu with her, a devastating tsunami rips through the town, destroying everything and killing thousands. So this is about the aftermath of that event, and then the characters as they're reconnected years later. The couple of people I've spoken to in the office who read this book are obsessed with it. So it's one that I think is going to be a really great literary book for us. It's got a lot of in-house love. So that's kind of the main ones I wanted to talk through at length. There's a few that I'm going to put on screen for you now that actually don't really need me to talk about them in any depth, but I just wanted to let you know about some of the books. Also flagging that a couple of these covers are not necessarily final, and so please don't screen grab and share or anything like that on these ones. But we've got The Rest is History Presents, which is a history of the world in 51 heroes and villains. We've got More. That cover is kind of pretty much the cover, so which I think is super striking. So we're going to have some really incredible pause in store about that one, and also the next in the Catherine Rundell Impossible Creatures series, The Never Fear. And then the final couple of books that I'll mention to you is we also have Madeline Miller's short story, Like Galatea Size, which is very exciting, coming in October. And we also have the new Louise Kennedy coming in October, who's the author of Trespassers, of course. So just to give you, I had to go beyond September, sorry about that. But yeah, that's pretty much my presentation for today of some of the exciting stuff we've got coming for Bloomsbury. If anyone has any questions, or I'm more than happy for you to drop me an email and I can kind of help you with any queries.